As you know, when I read, I like to get in other people, so that's going to be happening. Paul Burston will not be dropping his trousers because you had that last time, you greedy boys, and now it's time. It is time for something for the ladies. I'm actually slightly, the books at my bunk buses are all standalone, so, you know, I'm not giving anything away. You don't have to have read one before the other. That wasn't rude. People are just laughing at everything like a standalone. Sounds a bit rude. It's Fidelis, I swear to God. So, where was I? Yes. So, if anyone was here for, I think, the Halloween that I read at, Paul and Randon here in the front row, you may remember.
Not our trousers.
Like you need forcing. Come into my bedroom, Paul. Down they go. Oh, yes. Sorry, Paolo. Where was I? I got distracted. Right, so the last reading was the gay guy stuff, and that was from my Christmas book, Bad Angels. And I'd already done lesbians, as it were, before in Killer Heels, which is, I'm reading from tonight, and this is the New York competitive slimming, obviously lesbian fashion book. And that was actually how I kind of like got my editor, because I've kept saying to my editor, new things, you know, keep needing to happen in the sex department, you know, and people have a lot of fantasies, and it's not all just, you know, the handsome prince. Not they actually do that. But I wanted to do the lesbian thing, and I thought I'll start her off with lesbians because, you know, it's always a little bit easier for straight women, you know. So I did, I said I'm going to have, you know, some lesbianism in Killer Heels, and she went, make it gentle. Which I knew was totally code for don't have any fisting, but I didn't say that to her because I thought she'd get upset. So I was like, it is, and it's a bit more lively, but you know, a lot of people fantasize about lots of different things. You know what I mean? There's, you know. So then I did the Bad Angels, and I was like, I'm going to have gay boys in it, and she looked at me, and I could see the words, you know, make it gentle, i.e., you know, fists were trembling on her lips. So I'm not going to read a fisting scene. I hope everyone's all right with that. And I have two really lovely ladies reading with me tonight. You can probably guess who they are. And because they're such talented actresses, I wanted to make it a lot about them. And I thought, first of all, I would do, obviously, a lesbian sex scene. And there are quite a lot in the book. And I had the, I think, genius idea of inventing a Finnish half-albino supermodel called Rececca. Which is a real name. I know, I don't know where these ideas come from. So I was going to pull out a lesbian sex scene involving Rececca, but unfortunately Rececca doesn't talk very much. She's like this very poised Scandinavian, so there wasn't any dialogue, you know, she was too busy. So instead, for anyone who's read it, it's a scene from, oh, and I did some I do have some cat fights, but usually in the cat fights in these books, one person just wins, and I wanted it equal. So this is from the beginning of Killer Heels. It is unfilthy, but I think you will love it all the same, hopefully. And I'm going to call Celia and Fidelis to the stage now. I think you should go in this. We were going to see if I. Look at me and my muscles. Look at me and my doing my full plank push-ups today. Oh, so it's actually really light. So is that enough room for you? Yeah. We have not rehearsed this at all because they didn't need to because they're professionals. So off we go.
No pressure.
And this is from the beginning of the book. Fidelis is playing a character who is known as Jodie at this stage. And she is a working class girl who is desperate to work for Anna Wintour. Victoria Glossop. Played by Celia. And the setup is she's managed to get an interview, but she's walked into the reception room at Vogue Style magazine and seen an awful lot of everybody who's interviewing for the position of Victoria's assistant is dressed exactly like Victoria, like they're clones of her. And she's a smart girl, so she's taken a look at that and gone, I need to look different. So she's rushed out, changed her look completely as fast as she could in the high street, and popped back in again.
Can I just say, the colour that you've inked me in I can't.
Can you read it? Now she tells me. Oh, wait, is everything all right? Yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
My face and my back.
Yes, that's fine.
It just goes, look, it goes completely.
Do you need a bit of the light? You could go here.
I'm all right, but I'll just have to have this. It's not...
Don't fall back. That'll be... It's not about me, it's about that. Are we good to go?
Yeah.
You're next, said the skinny jeaned receptionist in hushed tones. Everyone at the style reception spoke in an artificially lowered voice, as if they were in church.
It is a sort of a church.
Jodie thought, as she took a seat in one of the uncomfortable but highly fashionable white chairs.
We're all worshippers, with Victoria Glossop as a cross between High Priestess and God.
The fifth-floor reception that led to the hallowed ground of style was decorated entirely in Victoria Glossop's signature palette. It might have been her own entrance hall. Huge white vases held black orchids, the only flower that was ever allowed to grace the receptionist's desk. The Chinese six-fold screen that hung on the wall behind the desk was of a snarling white tiger, black brushstrokes on cream paper in a black lacquered frame. One of the opaque glass double doors swung open. An impossibly thin girl in skinny grey jeans and 5-inch heels emerged, followed by the interview candidate who had sneered at Jodie in the waiting room an hour ago. She wasn't sneering now. Her head was held high, but her eyes were suspiciously red, and she was biting her bottom lip hard, trying not to cry. Jodie, you're next. God, it's taking forever. Jodie jumped up, smoothing down her skirt. I hope you've had a stiff drink, Skinny June said without an ounce of compassion in her voice, holding open the door for Jodie. She's in full bitch mode. I could hear her through the wall ripping that one's throat out, and once she gets the taste of blood. That one, visible through the glass doors, waiting for the lift, had wrapped her arms around herself and was giving vent to a series of whimpering sobs that she probably thought were inaudible to the people in reception. Crossing the office, Jodie glanced up to the snarling white tiger on the Chinese screen. Its pink tongue, the sneering curl of its nose, the sharp, dagger-like white fangs. It occurred to her that the tiger screen wasn't just the perfect final decorative touch, but that Victoria Glossop had hung it there to symbolise herself. A warning that anyone who crossed her was liable to get her head bitten off. And when Skinny Jeans ushered Jodie through the assistant's antechamber into Victoria's office, Jodie almost raised her hand to her throat in self-protection under the laser stare of Victoria's cold grey eyes.
Well, at least your original 5 points.
She scribbled something on her bilberry notepad with a slender silver Tiffany pen.
Though I'm deducting 2 for cheapness. Those shoes. Always spend money on shoes. People notice. Sit.
Jodie was so shocked by the stream of words that she didn't immediately obey the last one.
Sit. You should be grateful. I didn't even ask the last girl to sit down.
Victoria shuddered at the recollection, as elegantly as she did everything else. Her nose was long, narrow, and patrician. Generations of Glossops had looked down that nose at peasants, intimidating them very effectively even before they'd said a word.
I gave her a -10 for appearance, and no one recovers from a -10.
There hadn't been one girl in the waiting room who could conceivably have been described as a total mess, at least not by Jodie. Heart in her mouth, she stared at Victoria. It was true what Jodie had heard. The back of Victoria's chair was bolt upright to ensure perfect posture, beige leather made to her own specifications. Her blonde hair was swept back perfectly, literally not a single hair out of place. The side part over her ear as straight as if it had been executed with a ruler.
So, am I to assume this was deliberate?
They're really good quality and the cut is timeless. I picked navy because that suits me better than white and it's a classic colour.
+4, go on.
The jeans are Karen Millen. She cuts really well for my shape and they're classics too.
Ah, please! -2 for describing them as classics. The grey will date fast and there's too much branding. I can see that name on those hem zips from here. I loathe visible branding. But they do work with those shoes of yours, nasty and cheap though they are. The length is right and they fit you well. +2. We'll call it even. What's going on with the vile hair? Because, frankly, it's a dog's dinner. It's actually worse the more I look at it. -2.
She made another note.
Well, my hair was in a chignon, like yours, but everybody else was wearing theirs that way, so I pulled it down and I brushed it out. I thought everything was better looking like I thought anything was better than looking like all those other girls. And to be honest, it looked better on most of them than it did on me.
Victoria huffed. It took Jodie long, painful seconds to realise that this was a laugh.
Yes, you won't do well copying my style. You're not thin enough. Frankly, what am I saying? You're verging on plump. You don't have the bone structure to pull your hair back fully, and you never will. God either gives you cheekbones or he doesn't. Second, lose 10 pounds at least. No one who works for style is more than a size 8, and I can see you're clearly at least a 12. If you step over the threshold in a month's time and haven't lost the weight, I'll spin you on your heels and send you packing. Are we clear?
As Christophe.
Victoria was flapping her hands at Jodie as if she were shooing geese, the grey diamond flashing frantically. It was a signal for Jodie to jump out of her chair, grab her bag and make for the door.
One last thing, your name. That's -10. I can't possibly have an assistant called Jodie.
Utter panic spiked through Jodie's veins, a surge of adrenaline so sharp she flinched from the shock. Victoria continued.
We'll have to call you something else. Believe me, I'm doing you a favour. I'm loving Chanel. Coco. There you go. From now on, you're Coco. Don't bother to thank me. Tell Davina on the way out.
Mouth open, fingers sweaty on the handle of her bag, Jodie staggered out of Victoria's office. Skinny Jeans, aka Davinia, was sitting at the desk that would be Jodie's in a month's time. She looked up at Jodie and drawled, "Oh, do tell me you got the bloody job, won't you? She'll be even more of a bitch if I have to line up 6 more girls for her to rip to pieces."
Yes. Only now I'm called Coco.
Davinia didn't even blink at the news. Looking at her, slim, confident and off to the dizzy heights of the fashion cupboard, Jodie wondered whether Davinia, a year or so ago, had been a size 12 girl with a bad haircut called Nadine or Cheryl or Kimberly, with a much less posh accent than she had now. "Well, good luck, Coco," Davinia said dryly to her replacement. "You're going to need it."